Hi, everyone. So as Bob said, I'm Ashley Roberts. I am the content director of Printing Impressions, which is a Printing United Alliance media brand. And before we jump into our chat here, I just wanted to point something out that I found really interesting yesterday. Show of hands, how many people were in Steve's AI session yesterday? Okay, so a good amount of you. Something I found really interesting is he mentioned the Super Bowl, which very relevant. And I did a little digging, so it broke the record for the most AI ads yet. And there were 66 ad spots for the Super Bowl. And nearly a quarter of them were for AI products and services, which is mind-blowing to me. So obviously putting AI on a massive scale and massive stage, and we are here on a slightly smaller stage, but equally as important. So I want to start, I think, starting with telling me about yourself, and I can introduce you all. Actually, I didn't do that yet. So to my left here is Paul Cook, who is the Customer Success Manager, from Graphic Communications. Then we have Thomas DeBora, President of Hub Labels. We have Dennis Kramer, Chief Architect of EPS. Eric Peters, who is the Worldwide Marketing Manager of Eco3. Bob, of course, who you just heard speak. And then at the end here, we have John Henry Ruggieri, who is the President of Sundance. So, Paul, I want to have you start. Tell me about yourself and kind of talk to me about talk to all of us. What's your AI North Star? Like, what makes you excited about it?
Yeah, thank you, Ashley. Yeah, so my name's Paul. I've worked with Print MIS for over 30 years in a variety of roles, from sales, which I wasn't very good at, to development, to implementation, and then finally now into customer support. I'm effectively the customer advocate internally to make sure that we are keeping customers happy and delivering value to the product. I think there are multiple parts to the AI journey, okay, and I think that from my point of view, there are two very important parts of that recipe, okay. I was actually, when I've been preparing for one of the breakout sessions where we've been unveiling Thornton's AI capability, it finally, or the realization again that data is so important. The data you've got is so important, and I think it's the saying, is it that data is a gift from yesterday that you can use today, to influence tomorrow. And whilst it's quite a twee saying, it is absolutely true. And the good point is that within your MIS, you've got a lot of really valuable data, However, in the reality of running, print shops that are very busy and very competitive these days, your MIS it's a system of record, but it's not always a system of truth. Okay, people under pressure due to time or pricing will cut corners. Okay, that's the reality of what we do. And the other side of that data is that from a data curation, from a collection of data, it's not just about the MIS or the ERP system. You've got to look across all the data in the business. Okay, now the beauty is that AI, by definition, can sift through vast amounts of data. So it's not just about production data, it's about CRM data, it's recording phone calls with your sales team, it's recording internal production meetings, your transcripts from teams that we all seem to be kind of drowning under at the moment. But again, it's bringing all that data together, and you need that foundation really to make AI a success. The other side of the AI equation for me is who's responsible. Whose responsibility does it lie with? So from a vendor's point of view, from Thornton MIS, we've got a number of responsibilities. Okay, one is to promote good housekeeping of your data. Okay, that's very, very important. I think secondly is to control the access to that data. Your MIS, your ERP system will have vast amounts of very, very sensitive data internally, never mind externally. And I also think from a software development point of view, one of our responsibilities as a vendor is to make sure if we are adding new features is that we really, we ask ourselves, what does that mean to AI? It's got to be AI fit. It's got to pass some kind of AI quiz or AI prompt to make sure that new feature, is actually fit for purpose. And I think the other responsibility is with customers. It's not always the vendor's responsibility here. So the customers, really got to focus on one or two key points. It's very easy to look at this vast pool of data and start to think, oh man, it's very, very overwhelming. Identify a couple of key points in the business, whether that be who are my top 10 customers, what are my top products. Okay, focus on that and don't look at too much. But also, you've got to get into that learning loop of when you do find a gap or something needs improving, you've got to commit to delivering that change. You've got to commit to that. And we all have conversations with customers every day, and they'll say, yeah, I know that's a problem, but, oh yeah, we can't fix that, but because of this. We've got to get out of that mindset if we are going to start using AI to deliver some advantage.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Thomas, can you share a little bit about yourself and kind of what made you excited to dive into AI?
Yep. I'm Thomas DeBora, Hub Labels, flexographic printer in Maryland. By the way, Paul said that he needed notes, or else he'd forget something. You did great.
Thank you. Thank you.
But he made me think about this. So I'm kind of an innovation guy, gadget guy. I like tools. I like software. I like anything that's going to help me do my job better. But I didn't include this until Paul started to say it, but data. In today's day and age, the amount of data that's put in front of us is really intense. And being able to take that data and have it speak to you sometimes can take some time. So I'm not going to say it's my North Star, but having data go somewhere and being able to chat with it in an intuitive way. My finance guy, he does some great spreadsheets. And I use Grok because it's a little more entertaining. So I took the annual P&L and I dropped it in Grok, and I said, okay, so tell me about the numbers. And it, being quirky that it is, came back with a reply, you're not charging enough. I mean, not quite the answer you're always looking for, but you know, it's a good place to start. But for me, the North Star of AI is for the employees who work at Hub, it's taking those routine activities or tasks and taking them off their plate. Because what I'm seeing is that in this labor market, it's harder and harder to hire people. And the experience and the expertise they have would be better spent talking to the customer about enhancing their packaging, hitting their on-time delivery, not data entry. So for me, it's all about taking away the routine tasks to give them more time to spend with the customers.
Great. Thank you for that input. Dennis, how about you? Tell us a little about yourself and
Sure, I'm the Chief Software Architect at EPS and many incarnations of it in the past. So I'm familiar with just about all the products you're all using today. I think this is a moment in time. This is a giant paradigm shift. And this is a moment where we all need to pay attention and we all need to take action. There's a window of opportunity here for you to distance yourself with your competition and increase your revenues. You need to dive into this technology, everybody in this room. It's much more accessible than you think, and it's much realer than it's ever been before, right? It's very exciting as a technologist. It's game-changing. It's definitely the day the earth stood still. Once you see some of the power that these technologies can actually bring to the table now, right? So obviously, being a product guy and managing a large portfolio, I'm excited to roll these things out as fast as possible to the field, and hopefully a lot of you have seen that for real today and yesterday in some of my sessions. So, you know, from a philosophical perspective, you know, EPS truly values customer data privacy. We are really trying to make sure that everything we do is with your full knowledge and configuration, permission, security, audit trail, so that you can rest assured that your data is secure, right? So secondly, we view AI as a tool to assist humans, not to replace them, right? So your productivity is going to go through the roof with these tools. You are not replaced. You still need what I refer to as the puppet master, right? A few folks just say the orchestrator or whatever, but I like puppet master, right? You need somebody watching your digital workers and measuring the results. And for sure, the other thing about AI that you want to look out for in all of our products and any product that you're using internally is ask yourself, the old math teacher thing, right? Show your work. Don't just tell me the answer. How did you get to the answer so that I can inspect it and interact with the answer to try to get to a better result or accept the answer based on reading the explanation. So definitely look for the explainability in any AI solution you're looking for, and always look out for the fact that the human is in control of the decision, that it's not an automatic decision. that you're able to train and learn and eventually trust, and then ultimately automate once you've developed that trust. It's no different than what we've done in automation for years, right? It's normal block and tackling, whether it's print flow scheduling, iQuote, et cetera, anything with a large amount of automation, we give you the training wheels so that you can interact with these tools manually, start to slowly introduce some of the automation until finally you just hit the button and say go, okay? So that's a key tenet. The other key tenet at EPS is partnering with our customers. We're not looking to make your cat dance in an image or sing the Star-Spangled Banner. We need to partner with you to create AI-specific engines in print and packaging. So that's very much our North Star regarding AI. I could go on, but you probably don't want to hear me.
Eric, why don't you tell us a little about yourself and what excites you about AI?
Well, when looking at myself, I've been in the industry for over 25 years, working on various software products and various roles related to software. And when looking at AI, I would say there are actually two facets that I really focus on within Eco3. And the first one is more related, I would say, to the product marketing part that I manage. How can we develop functionality, new functionality and features that you, our customers, request in a faster way? So help our developers to give them tools, AI tools, to develop right code in a consistent and reliable manner. I think that's the first thing. But also related to that is how can we ensure that the quality is right? So how can AI guide the test department to come up with new routines to test and validate the software? And in overall, it means improving our go-to-market, faster development, good product quality. And I think that's one area where we focus on within Eco3. That's internal use. That has nothing to do with you guys yet. The second item really is related to your daily practice. How can we leverage AI and use AI to help you support in your daily production in prepress? And when talking about prepress, we specifically look at managing content, pages, artwork. How can we optimize those files in order to make sure that they deliver the result that you look after? How can we ensure that overprint is handled correctly? How can we upscale images? All that kind of stuff. So pure content management. Another part is quality management, and I think there lies a big opportunity, if you ask me. You've got a lot of printers out there that manage the presses, offset or flexo, but they're highly skilled operators, and they are getting older, harder to replace. You've got color specialists, and they only focus on one specific area within that whole print process, and they do not come in high amounts, so you only have very limited people that really understand color management and color and quality management. And there we look at the technology, what can we do to predict the optimal combination of profile, screening, ink, all the different parameters that have an influence on quality. How can we use and automatically select those right parameters once you have specified this is the quality that I want to obtain of my print product? So those are the two areas, internal, but also looking at you as a customer, what do you can expect from Eco3 and how can we leverage our core competencies?
Great. Thank you. Bob, I know you had already introduced yourself a little bit, but what is exciting to you about AI?
So I'm part of HP. We're a product company. It's good. But I always try to frame what I'm interested in or what excites me. I'm going to say from our customers in instead of from our products out. I hope that makes sense. So the idea of AI for me is taking raw data, data, great. I got a spreadsheet with numbers. I've got a bunch of data, and data's fine, but how do you make data actually useful and make it information? Not just information, but something I can take action on. and get good insights, and not just generic insights, but specifically about my operation, my people, my customers, and take that into something that you can use not once a month with a report, but minute by minute, hour by hour, to adjust and make better decisions on what you're doing today, this morning, this afternoon, to respond faster if there's an issue, or you get a call and a customer needs a job 3 days faster than they originally expected. What can you do? How can you adjust? And so taking the data and making it into something that's actually useful immediately and having an impact daily and hourly, I think is, for me, the most exciting part of AI.
Great, thank you. And John Henry, can you introduce yourself?
Yep, John Henry from Sundance out of Orlando, Florida. We're a commercial printing and packaging manufacturer. I'd say we had a pretty interesting AI journey. We were fortunate to get involved with, ChatGPT, a few months after it was released, and using it for marketing, generating, doing copywriting and image generation and that type of thing. And, we've been using it ever since then, and I'd love to say we have some really fancy AI strategy, and it seems like every time I put together a strategy or think about a really solid plan, something changes. So our current North Star is just really to try and keep up with the technology, just to do something. I mean, I think you can kind of have, analysis through paralysis through analysis. What we've tried to do is just constantly have some type of project going on, even though it may not be the perfect solution or the perfect application, just be doing something in the space, so.
Perfect, thank you so much. Dennis and Eric, you both mentioned, how you're bringing value to your customers and kind of, how you're thinking about them. Bob, can you maybe elaborate on that question? How are you thinking about AI and the value that you're bringing to your customers?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we're doing, as I mentioned in my intro just briefly, was we have this global infrastructure called PrintOS. All of our presses, all of our customers' presses are reporting every minute of every day what they're doing. I'm printing now. I'm not printing. I have an error. I ran so many sheets of a particular stock. The job started at this time, it ended at that time. What's the status? And not just the press, but also the DFE and many other aspects related to the operation. And so having that amount of data, 10 years of this data, and being able to then, as an IT company at heart, think about what do we do with that? And the advent of these AI engines, ChatGPT and Gemini and so on, I think inspired us to say, wait, we don't have a whole universe of public internet data, but we do have a tremendous amount of data from our customers. How can we put that data to work for our customers? And so that's why we invested in and just are recently launching our new Neo AI engine. It's 1.0. I tell people we're just getting started, but it will grow and will expand into many different areas of value and data rapidly.
Great, thank you. Paul, I'm going to jump over to you, actually. Hi. So can you talk about that and maybe the value that you're bringing to customers as you think about AI and the future?
Yeah, I think what you mentioned there, Bob, about it's not about product out, it's about customer in. So we're just starting that AI journey, and I'll be the first to admit that from a product strategy and an actual reality of delivering something. As I mentioned before, it was the first breakout session we showed our AI capability to John Henry, and I think you liked it, didn't you, John Henry? Was it okay? Yeah.
Very impressive, very impressive.
So in terms of, it's about what customers want from us. What do you guys want us to deliver? And it's got to be, it's a partnership, it's a collaboration, as it always is. But like what you framed it before, Bob, as it's not product out, it's not sales out, it's customer in. So it's, what is the silver bullet? Some customers will focus on production efficiencies, some customers will focus on, sales targets and things like that. So I don't think there's one answer. I think it's a different, and I always say this when I talk to customers, in fact, that you all do the same thing, but you all do it so very, very differently, which makes the job of the vendors very, very difficult. So I would be more interested in what customers need from us to deliver their AI strategy and partner together.
Perfect. So I think that's a good segue. I want to move to our customers here. So Thomas, since you are the closest to me, I'm going to start with you. Maybe tell us, what are you currently implementing, or what have you implemented, and what value did it bring, or what do you expect it to bring to your company?
Okay, I think it'd be fair to start out with kind of the way I view things and how I implement AI tools. Is I kind of got this parsed up into 3 chunks. The user level, which is like me, customer service, like people, individual people using tools. I look at it, the next bucket is customer, which has got inside and outside. So external customer and like customer service, people doing the work. And then the last piece of it would be like graphics. It's kind of the way I break this up. And to be honest with you, I haven't gotten out of the first bucket, the user level. But by the way, I almost feel compelled to, we've talked about data, right? Everything's data. That's not what AI is all about. I've used some tools to help improve my management, the way I look at things, and it's kind of weird, right? I'm talking to a bot about situations that are happening at work. I've created bots in Grok that send me weekly newsletters on management and assignments. So, I mean, it's really nice to be able to take data and look at it and come up with actions, but there's so much more that you can do with it than just look at the data. But Ashley, back to your question, tools that we've used?
Yeah, what are you currently implementing?
So we were fortunate. We hired this young kid out of college who's like really good at, he's like savage level when it comes to working with AI. And we've kind of started small, because the other issue that we find is data's kind of really siloed and hard to get at. So some of the things that we've used, I've heard the word friction used a lot in this conference, and I think it applies to this, is we've created bots within the company, like for example our SOPs. Who's created SOPs that stay on the shelf and nobody uses? I think somebody from EPS said they've created an SOP chat, where instead of it, you open up the book and you see this 4-page document. Well, now you ask for what the SOP is, and it kind of tells you in 3 bullet points, so it parses it up. So we've implemented that. What's the second one? We did it with our handbook, right? What a great way. Who looks at their handbook? It's the same thing as an SOP. You put it on there, you give them access to it via the chat. They ask questions about what they should do when. So it's simple tools like that. The other big win is our note-taking apps. I mean, the note-taking apps that we use, I don't have to attend meetings anymore, like those infamous Zoom meetings. I do, but if I'm traveling, I could just get a summary. If I have meetings with people, I'll Firefly it, capture it, it goes into Evernote, so I have access to it. So the challenge that I've been having with AI tools is dealing in an environment where everything's so siloed and hard to get access to. So the low-hanging fruit is, can I do something with it? Can I get to it quickly?
Great. John Henry, I'm going to pitch the same question to you. So what are you currently implementing, and how do you see it kind of changing your business moving forward?
So I think we're doing a lot of things similar to what Thomas is doing. We're using general LLMs for procedures and that type of thing. Our 2 biggest initiatives were around pricing and I'll call it agent bot for answering questions and things like that. And after seeing Paul's awesome presentation yesterday, we're putting both of those projects on hold. Because I think one of the big things we're realizing is we're not a software developer, so if there's an application out there that we can use that will kind of meet our needs, we want to fully embrace that. Those 2 projects, we'll switch over to a vendor base. Some of the other things we're doing, we were part of the beta group for Neo, so we're using that a lot on the shop floor for troubleshooting, and then we use that for data and reporting and that type of thing. We're doing some vibe coding, so for those of you who saw Steve's sessions, he showed us how to do some things, and our programmers are using that. One of the other little tidbits I'll share, it's along the note taker I have this Plaude AI, and there's another one, Company Cam, but we use them for like site visits. So anybody that's doing, wraps or measurements and things like that will send one of the Plaudes out or some note-taking app. They'll go around, read out the measurements as they're kind of going along, have a conversation with the customer, take pictures, and then they come back in a matter of minutes. It will compile a whole report. And my one rep, who is probably our #1 wide format rep, told me that she would spend an hour to 2 hours compiling these reports, and now she does that in a matter of minutes. So that's been a really big win for us.
Wow, thank you. And, so you obviously just mentioned some of the ways that you're using it, but how did you identify the areas that you needed more efficiency?
Yeah, I think for us, we started with the low-hanging fruit, repetitive tasks, right? Anything like spreadsheet and data import and that type of thing. And once you get past the low-hanging fruit, it gets a little harder. For us, what we did is we brought in, kind of outside consultants. They weren't necessarily AI consultants, but just an outside perspective, look at kind of our process and our workflow. They helped us identify bottlenecks, and then once we kind of saw where those bottlenecks are, we said, okay, how can we implement an AI solution to help speed that along? So for us, it was really valuable getting an outside perspective to say, okay, this is your process, this is what I'm seeing, how do you guys think we can solve it? And then just putting some type of AI solution to that.
Perfect. And Thomas, what about you? Was it kind of like the low-hanging fruit, like you mentioned the Zoom meetings, having something attend for you?
Yeah, so I kind of approached it a different way. I gave my executive team kind of license to go out and explore different AI tools, and they've kind of are using them individually. Like I think the biggest win was our quality team. She and this AI young man used Claude to create a new project management tool tailored specifically for us. And I was blown away. He's showing it to me, and I'm like, I have subscription fatigue. And I'm looking at this going, this is really nice. What, are we going to have another subscription fee? And he goes, no, I did this using Claude, and it took a couple of hours. And it was polished. Very impressed with it. So, yeah, it is giving the executive team free rein to kind of use it as they see fit. I know the GM, she's kind of really good with Copilot. I can't use Copilot. I can't figure out how. It's not a very nice application. Can't ever find anything. I must be doing something wrong, but she seems pretty successful with it.
So I'm going to stick with you for last question that I have. So you have AI working for you in a couple different ways. So can you give some tips and maybe tell us what are some key considerations before diving into AI and making those decisions to use it?
Yeah, so the first thing that comes to mind is it's incredibly exhausting. I avoid giving this out to your teams or deploying something that isn't like good, because your teams are kind of looking at us and are a little afraid of what AI is going to do. Is it going to replace me? And so the last thing you want to do is stumble and not deploy something that works. The other thing, and I think Steve talked about it, when I said it's exhausting, I know personally, I'll be using like Grok for something, and I'm not getting the results I want, so then I'll go to Gemini, and Gemini will give it to me, and then Gemini won't do it, so I'll mess with Copilot. So it's almost like this race of what AI agent can be better. So that's exhausting. We're being really cautious with it, kind of making sure that we don't deploy something that doesn't look good. But the biggest frustration is you mentioned all the data, right?
Yeah.
It's never, I never have easy access to it. Because in a perfect world, it would be great if you had an environment where everything talked like really seamlessly, and that the AI bot, whatever you're using, can just kind of go where it needs to go to get the data that you're looking for. That's not the way things are working right now. So there's all this stuff that I want to get, and sometimes I need to do it via spreadsheets. to get there.
If I could just add something to that, Ashley. So you're absolutely right. So I find it exhaustive, may not be the word I would use, but when we do the testing of the Thorson capability, it was, we use something called Cherry Studio as part of some part of the back end of this. And you use one LMM and you get one result set, and you flick it to a different LMM and you get a different result set. So in the very highest level of, I've asked it the same very simple question, and I get two different results. And I also find that if you ask it a question at, say, 10 a.m., you get result A. And if you ask the same question at 11 a.m., you do get a slightly different result. And I find that frustrating. You know, who's going to win the race is one thing, you know, but I think, is it infancy? I don't know. And I think it was a point that came up in was it Steve's session yesterday, of the exponential rate these things are changing. And I think it's faster than that, you know, and I find that a concern, because as John Henry mentioned, you're going to say, well, we want to do this thing, yeah, but it'll evolve. You've got to do something, haven't we? We've got to do something. You know, you've just got to try and back a horse, or Willie, for a better analogy.
So if I could add to that, so what you're talking about is very real and can be frustrating. So the EPS view on this is this game of leapfrog that's going to be inevitably happening. Models coming out every other day, different skill sets, different capabilities, costs, security concerns, et cetera. When we inject AI into our platform strategy, we do so with this full knowledge, and we embrace it. So we're taking advantage of the multi-step reasoning capabilities of these modern engines to decide which AI agents to talk to. That way, you can let the engine or the agent go out and decide which is the best AI agent to answer the question that has the best skill set or gives the best answer. Let it ask and answer the question automatically, and then decide which result is better. Some of this is real today, right? So if you were in any of my sessions, I pointed out a couple times that in my configuration, I had multiple AI agents available. I had agents that were talking to our databases. I had agents talking to the file system. I had Claude. I had et cetera, right? So often on the first prompt, you saw the reasoning step. There's a little blurb. It's saying which MCP server or AI agent is best equipped to answer this question. So that's actually real today. So look for that in your vendor choices, right, moving forward. You need to be adaptable and malleable. So in our Genie Copilot implementation, you have the choice to swap the model. It's just baked in. We're not just tied to OpenAI. You can select Claude, et cetera, and switch the model for the context right in line in the tool. That way you have the choice and the flexibility, and you can deal with your own specific data governance within your organization, which you'll tolerate from a privacy, security, audit trail, et cetera. And importantly, too, we support local models too, right? So if you just flat out, your organization is not going to allow a cloud-based service to have any access to your data, there'll be local models that you can install, and our tool set will work with those too. As I tell folks, right, it's pretty simple. You get what you pay for. They're good, they're not great. So, but you can still get answers, you can still increase productivity in your organization and remove a lot of grunt work tasks. So be on the lookout for that.
Great, thank you for that. John Henry, I'm going to throw the same question at you. So what are some, tips or key considerations to make before diving in?
I think the biggest consideration is, just kind of be realistic, right? Exaggerated example, if you're handwriting job tickets, you probably shouldn't be worried about AI. You need, the basic foundation in place. You need workflow. You can't really automate, something that's not automatable. So what I would kind of look at, and what I have said is, it's kind of AI is a technology, right? It's garbage in, garbage out. If you have bad processes, bad procedures, all you're going to do is automate and make more mistakes. So, getting that baseline in place is what I think is probably the biggest first consideration.
Great, that's wonderful, thank you. So you probably saw on the app, we asked everyone here if they had questions about AI, and we had a lot of submissions. So I'd love to start asking some of those questions that came in from the audience. And Eric, I have one for you. So this is actually something that came up in a session I was in yesterday, that not all companies are the same size. So someone asked, how can AI help my business do more with less and help me compete against larger organizations with more resources beyond just generational AI?
Well, I think the answer has already been given a couple of times. AI can definitely help you. independent of the size of your company. But there is one, or there are a couple of aspects that you need to take into account, and one was already mentioned by Thomas here. He has a young guy on staff that totally embraced AI. So if you have your AI champion within the company that can fiddle around with the different models, type in the right prompt, think in a logic way, then you are on the right track in order to compete with the big companies that are out there. Because it is not just AI. You need people that actually use AI in a good way. And that is key in the whole usage of AI. So it is
With
not
subject
technology.
matter expertise, right? So that's why it's important for all of you to dive in now. A puppet master with industry knowledge is going to run far faster than a kid out of college with vibe coding expertise. They don't know what to tell it to do, right? So that's so important, and you need to realize that, right? That you're going to be far more productive with your industry knowledge of the actual problems and how your organization runs. So spend the time, become a vibe coder. And the coding term, throw that away. Product managers, support people, salespeople, that you can take advantage of these tools in your day-to-day tasks right now. So be on the lookout for that. So it's great to have champions and people with expertise, but they'll just become another bottleneck for getting things done. So don't be afraid to get your hands dirty.
Yeah, and I want to build on that as well. So I think, AI and these engines and capabilities are amazing tools. They're growing at exponential rates and so forth. But I don't think anything really replaces the human spirit, the human creativity. Like, what's the next business opportunity? What is the next way you can bring value to your customers? And then use the tools to get there faster, to do it better, to iterate more rapidly so that you can reach success and go beyond, probably farther than has ever been possible. So, look for the new opportunities, and I would say, yes, we need people that are subject matter experts and so forth. But also, I'll tell you, I've got a few people on my team that are fresh out of college, but they seem to have the wisdom beyond their years somehow. And so they're bringing new ideas. These are people, I like to say, that grew up digital. They never knew the world without the internet, without a mobile phone. And so, yes, they can bring some new perspectives on things, but it's the combination of a team that's encouraged and a culture that builds on ideas and leverages the tools to bring it faster and do it better.
Yeah, and there's one word, you just mentioned it briefly, dare to iterate. Don't stand still. Don't expect that it will be right the first time. Right. So even if you are a small company, don't hesitate. Try again. Try to fine-tune. Try to look for alternatives. Use another model. I think it all boils down to that. It's not a technology that you deploy once. It is a continuous process. That's what it is all about. So you need the time and the time and the resource, of course, to take that up.
Yeah. And I think actually being a smaller company can be an advantage with these types of tools because you're less inhibited. Maybe you're freer within your culture. You're going to do things in a responsible, respectful way, but you don't necessarily have to have a committee to get approval to go try it. Okay? So let's get on with it, and don't be shy, but don't expect instant success. Learn, build, discover what's next. Yeah.
Bob, I'm glad you said that because I agree. I don't think it's the big guys are going to eat the small guys' lunch, as I think we've got the ability to be nimble and make changes quicker. Which actually, Dennis, I wasn't sure where you were going with what you were saying, but I think in some cases too that applies to software companies because when I looked at the roadmap, I think in 2026 EPS is establishing a foundation for AI in 2027, right? Is that what I saw?
It's happening now. Literally, there are AI all through the platform. It's
Okay.
fundamentally at the core.
Because
It's available.
my next comment was, you know how quickly things are changing. I was going to say that that's an example of a big company that needs to adapt quicker.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So Thomas, actually, I'm going to stick with you because you mentioned something earlier about you have a young person on board who can help with this. And one of the questions that came in is, are you integrating AI into your hiring process at all? Are you asking candidates if they have any AI proficiency?
You know, I saw that question, and I don't know. She's sitting in the audience, but I don't know.
Okay. Is that something you might think about in the future, or asking?
Yeah, I can't help but I missed it, you know. And that's why I kind of deployed it to individual people in the team, because their perspective of what they do is different. But I mean, I think that would be cool.
How about you, John Henry?
Yeah, I mean, don't have a formal kind of AI acceptance policy, for lack of a better term, right? But we certainly screen for it. You know, I mean, you know, a year or two ago, you know, I would always prioritize the cover letters and resumes if it was clearly written by AI, had, you know, the extra hyphens and best regards and that type of thing. You know, now it's a little harder to tell. So, you know, we'll ask questions of, you know, what are they using it for in their personal lives and that type of thing. You know, I think it also really depends upon, you know, the position, right? You know, if we're hiring a hand worker, we don't necessarily ask that, but, you know, a marketing intern, it's an absolute requirement. You know, they have to tell us how they would use it for their job, right? Because I think, you know, those type of positions is just absolutely essential.
Okay, I'm going to stick with you, and I'm going to kind of stick on that topic, because someone asked for strategies for employees who are not as savvy with tech or are hesitant to interact with AI for anything other than creating goofy images. So have you come across that at all, and how did you approach it?
Yeah, I think we've certainly come across it, and you know, the biggest thing we've found is, you know, show them how it can help them, right? You know, we have one person, Sundance, that was really anti-AI, you know, was going to replace their job and all that type of thing. We had an opportunity where a vendor had sent us in for a press release, and it was like 20 complicated questions that they were going to have to answer. And I, you know, took the opportunity, you know, I kind of grabbed it, threw it into my LLM that had, you know, a bunch of my data, and, you know, probably spent 3 minutes on it, spit it out, did another quick iteration, and sent it to her. And it was almost a completed draft that, you know, saved her probably 2 hours of her time. And just being able to kind of, you know, see how it can help her was, I think, probably, you know, the biggest thing. You know, so just showing people how to use AI. I was just at a conference a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to bring this back to my team. You know, one of the suggestions there was, you know, when you're having your monthly meetings, your staff meetings, whatever, have an AI, you know, kind of share of, okay, how did you use AI during the week, right? You know, or during the month? What was a win you have? Because, you know, people, for the most part, they just don't know what to do with it. So if you can give them some examples, show them how it makes their life easier, rather than, you know, them thinking it's just going to replace their job, you know, show them how it can help their job. And I think that's the best way to get adoption.
So, you know, we just heard a bit from Thomas and John Henry, print service providers who are using AI. So, Dennis, I'm going to throw this question to you. This was one that came in that said, if you were planning an AI strategy for a commercial printing company, what would your AI stack be comprised of?
Yeah, that's a pretty big topic. I think you first want to always start out with your business goals, right? Just decide which parts of the business do you want to attack and in what order, right? So are you looking to improve turnaround time with estimate to quote? You're getting lots of third-party emails in different formats and so on, different ways to bring in order acquisition. You could choose that potentially as a way to start an AI project, right? Or you could be more ambitious and say, well, you know, strategically, we can do some tactical projects like that, but strategically, we really need to take all the data that we have and make it accessible in a data lake, right? So if you want more of an enterprise strategy, a long-term view, you need to start thinking about data lakes and taking your ERP data coupled with your equipment data, your sensor data, and start creating a strategy to get all that data in one place. And there were a couple comments made about the data's bad, I'm going to have to fix all the data. That's true, but it doesn't prevent you from starting, because AI can help you find the quality of the data. It can assess it. So in a couple of the sessions I ran, I think I was showing a few folks, right, that you can generate classical machine learning models, and part of the explainability of the AI is telling you the quality of the data, therefore the quality of the model, and spitting out an action plan for how you might improve that, right? So you can use AI as part of the journey to get to better quality data and better quality processes. It still can help you immediately, right? So in terms of a larger big bang strategy, the long-term view, you want to get more of your data accessible in the same place so these engines have more data, right? So part of that is, well, if you don't have time for a data lake, right, that's a big, heavyweight sounding project, right, pretty scary. It's this concept of AI agents. Think of an AI agent as a knowledge base, right? So I could have a Salesforce agent, I could have an SOP agent, as was described earlier. I can have agents on all my databases, and then string all those agents together through something like Copilot, and all of a sudden it can see into those things, and through the conversational AI, it can infer context from those other data sources. So when you ask it to go solve a problem, the more context, the more data sources you give it, the better the answers you can get, right? So that's another way to think about it. There's the tactical, start now. But if you are really ambitious, right, you're talking data lakes and some of the modern tool sets. So use reputable, well-known AI engines, right? Because data privacy, security, obviously, going to be a concern. Definitely look towards governance. The per user per month cost for a lot of these engines is pretty humble. But some of the higher level tiers will give you much more organizational control of the types of AI that's being used, audit trail, et cetera, and will allow you to roll it out in a more manageable way. So that's another consideration.
Great, thank you. Paul, I'm going to ask you this question. Someone asked, which I think is a really great point, I would love to hear real-world practical applications and what AI engine people are using. Most discussion is theoretical and does not necessarily help people get to work using AI. I think it'd be helpful to guide people on how to dig in. So what would be your tip there?
Yeah, interestingly, we've just started an onboarding project in the US, and it's a new installation of the system, and they have AI started on day one, and what they're doing, they're using that as a way of capturing knowledge. So every onboarding session, every training session, every internal discussion about machine rates and hourly rates is being captured in AI. So they've got some referral point. They can go back and ask the questions later, because we all know ERP and MIS systems are big systems. They are big, deep, sophisticated, complex, and even the best trainer in the world or the super smart new young person, it's difficult to retain all that knowledge. So say a slightly different way of understanding AI was an onboarding tool to build out the knowledge. And it's just hardcore knowledge. There's nothing too elaborate about it. It's just taking transcripts of the meetings, and then so when our team aren't available to answer the question in the time frame the customer likes, they can just go to their AI chatbot and say, hey, how do I enable it not to calculate a multiple set of plates or whatever. So I think that was really useful. It's one of those thought, yeah, it's outside of my world of print MIS. It was just another flavour, another way of using AI that would apply not just to MIS and ERP or print or discrete manufacturing and beyond.
Thomas, what would you say to that question? Where's a good place to dig in?
I'm still stuck on Dennis's machine maintenance, predictive maintenance AI. That's got me pumped. And the knowledge, it just clicked. So I'm thinking, if you record all your meetings and it's capturing all this information about how jobs are to be run, think about the amount of knowledge that's captured about going back and saying, hey, how do I run the job this way? And then it can go, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, no, it's purely for onboarding of the project in terms of training staff and setting the system up so that it could, before they go live. But I think it would absolutely apply to that in terms of, we ran this job last month and that job represented this level of profitability, this level of value added. So let's learn from that this time. So we are producing a similar type of job. So using AI to direct you now to produce the job and what things, things to consider. But that use case I explained before was purely about learning and training on the MIS before go live.
Okay. And what was your question?
Where to dig in? Where would you, suggest that someone digs
See,
in?
that's not my strength, because I get excited about these two things, and I'd go off in this direction. I think where to dig in is I think John Henry said, is where's your biggest friction point? Is it easy to use an AI tool to fix it? We had a case where one of the customer service reps was having problems calculating roll diameter. Well, that's an easy one, right? And just at this event, I think we were looking at Phoenix, and the customer success manager was asking me about it, and we said that that's a great opportunity to create an AI agent to figure out how you're going to nest the customer's labels across the web. So I just think that you don't make it too complicated. And what's the easiest thing to fix to get those wins under your belt so the people that are using the tools feel confident and feel safe that AI is not going to take their jobs?
Perfect. So we have just under 10 minutes left, and I would encourage you all, if you have any product-specific questions, to visit these fine folks on the show floor. But if you have any, I want to open it up, see if anyone has any questions about AI in general, where to start. Does anyone have any questions? Maybe not? Okay, that's okay too, because we do still have some additional questions that people submitted. So let me see here. Let me go back to our customers. I'm sorry, I'm putting a lot of questions on you. So someone asked, what are some practical first steps that you used? Where did you automate, for example? John Henry, yeah, we'll start.
Okay. Well, I think for us, automating was, around, I'll call it the workflow side of things, trying to get things going for pre-flighting and that type of thing. I think, my advice if you're looking kind of, where to start is just, kind of start simple. If you're, you use Microsoft Outlook, start with Copilot. If you're, using Gmail, start with Gemini. I mean, don't overcomplicate it. And, I think the probably the most important part is kind of getting everybody to pull in the same general direction, right? If you have one LLM that everybody's using, you can help train it, you can help create some agents. That's, one of the things we have been messing around with is just, things that can answer questions for people rather than having to try and look something up. So that would be my recommendation.
Great, thank you. Bob, a question came in. Someone asked, how are you measuring ROI and win-fail cases, and how are you addressing those issues or celebrating the wins? Have you heard anything from customers, or do you have any insights there?
Sure. So ROI is always an important aspect of any business and any investment. You can think about ROI obviously in dollars, but also in time, and different. Almost, if you take it to the human level, the ROI of somebody's mindset, okay? So where I'm going is thinking about the culture that you have and encouraging people to try the tools, find new ways to do things. And so from an ROI perspective, the question in my mind, yes, if CFOs are here, definitely we have to talk about dollars and cents. But from a bigger organizational perspective, what if you could increase your entire team's productivity by 15, 20, or 30%? What's the ROI on that? And the time that and the encouragement and the culture that, like you said, celebrates roundtable, who used AI this week and who was successful, and build on that, and even make it a little bit of fun, because I always like to say, listen, if we're If we're just working, then it's work. But if we're having fun, then we want to work more. So the key is to really tap into the people, I think, and find ways to have them get benefit from it at work and maybe even at home and so on.
Perfect. And we have a couple minutes, so I want to end with this question because I think it's really important. Someone asked about product security, which is definitely something I, hear a lot about. So what is the best way to handle security concerns while beginning the AI journey? Eric, can you maybe start us off with that one?
Ooh, this is a challenging one because it has different facets to it. I think Dennis already mentioned a couple of things. You can go for the higher paid solutions where you have more control over what the LM is actually doing. You can deploy your local solution. Again, that's a level of security. But this is all related, I would say, to the pure technology. For me, there's also another aspect, and that's actually, is AI the right solution? That's also something you should question. And is the model, do I need to use a generative AI or not? If you're going to manipulate customer images, my suggestion is don't use generative AI because it will change the image and you have no control on what will change. So probably you better use another model in order to improve the image quality or generate bleed or whatever you want to do. So there are different aspects to security, and it is something you definitely need to take a look at, I would say.
Dennis, did you have something to add there?
Yeah, I was just going to add, right? So that's a good point. Most of the buzz is around generative AI, right? So it's a tool in the toolbox in AI. The AI is a very, very broad topic, right? So if you think about traditional rules-based and heuristic systems like Printflow and AutoCount, and many of the systems that folks up here on the stage are part of, those are forms of AI, no question, right? Classically, right? There's classical machine learning to do prediction classification, right? It has nothing to do with generative. So that's sort of traditional brute force manipulation of images to get printer quality rip and whatnot. That's not going to be replaced anytime soon, right? So again, this knowing the right tool in the toolbox, the right AI type to use sometimes too. But in terms of accessibility, generative AI is the accessible AI, right? And you can use it to create other forms of AI. You can literally use it to create classical machine learning models, and it can build it for you and explain what the models are. So they can complement one another is the point.
Paul, maybe we'll...
Yeah, it's an interesting point. Maybe can I ask the group a question? Is that okay? Hi guys. Is in terms of less traditional reporting, Crystal reports as a device to generate management information, or Power BI or Tableau as a tool. Do you guys think that in the short term, or as a way of de-risking the exposure of your data, do you think reporting or traditional reports will coexist with AI? Or do you think AI will take over? In the short term, is it a way of de-risking it by, your MIS has a lot of sensitive information, a lot of very operator wages for one. So do you think reporting will coexist with AI?
Yeah, no, I think, for us at least, we're going to require that we have our regular reports that we've tested and tried and are at least 99% sure are accurate, right? And then compare that to what the AI puts out, right? I mean, you mentioned it earlier, I think, you can ask the same question, the same LLM at a different time of the day, and it can give you a slightly different answer, right? So I think until it's really proven that, it will answer the way you want it to answer, we're going to be running those reports side by side.
Yeah, so you're right. But ideally, what's the point of a report? You're looking for exceptions, right? Yeah. So provided that data is good. How many times have you looked at a report and I'm like, everything looks good, right? You've just spent 5 or 10 minutes. What's the point of it? If you get a report that shows you exceptions, and if everything's good, you don't get a report. So my hope is that it gets rid of reports.
Yeah, well, it's a different way of looking at data, As I said, we look for exceptions and gaps. And I think we just got the power of the grey, didn't we? Certainly back in the old Power BI days where, yeah, you're not looking at the X plus Y plus Z, you're looking for something else. Yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at
Think
it.
about it, you don't even get a notice if everything's good, and all of a sudden, you'll get, hey, Paul, this job that we ran on this press the other day, something didn't look right, you know?
Yeah.
I'll just say that, by the way, I don't think AI is for everything. Okay? We have Copilot running and Office 365 and all that. I'm writing a 2-sentence email and it keeps popping up and saying, "Do you want help from Copilot to do this?" And I'm like, "No, I think I can handle a 2-sentence email." Okay? So, it's you gotta really, I think, leverage it where things are complex and you're looking for insights. But yeah, I can still figure out some things myself. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I think a great place to end. And again, I would encourage you all, if you have a question that we didn't get to, please find these subject matter experts here at the event and give them a round of applause.